For billions of years, water has been changing the landscape on Earth. The tremendous power of water sculpts riverbeds, gorges, and canyons, yet it can also sit still and tranquil, nature's perfect embodiment of duality. Water has always been captivating to me, but in the fall of 2019, I started to interact with water in a different way than I was used to. I started whitewater kayaking. While I wasn't particularly fond of the sport at first, I grew a strong affinity with whitewater sports when I started to learn that there was more to the sport than chasing the thrill. Just as the river changes the landscapes all around us, I felt the river changing me, teaching me about myself and how to interact with life. Since that point, I have been hooked, paddling at every chance I get and improving my abilities quickly. In October of 2020, I got an invite to spend 20 days kayaking the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon, one of the most awe-inspiring displays of the magnificence of water. When I was thinking about the way that whitewater had rapidly changed my life and the events that had occurred to lead me to the Grand Canyon, I started wondering the same thing about the other members of the group. I only knew one person on the trip, and I was curious who these people were and why they participated in whitewater activities. Over the next 20 days on the river, we got to explore these questions and find new answers, discovering ways that the river had changed us and how we were brought together. On December 1st, we packed up all our belongings on a big truck and rode to Lee's Ferry, the start of our 217-mile journey.
Let's go to the Grand Canyon.
Through my conversations with group members, I found three themes emerging: community, personal growth, and connection with history and nature.
I'm Kayla Wright.
I'm Carson Wright. I've been paddling for about 5 or 6 years now. We actually met paddling separate. We started separately and met through the sport at a waterfall running clinic.
So we met and kind of like hit it off and everything, and kind of had like this running joke of like keeping each other. And I said, like, you have to keep me until we paddle Grand Canyon. So usually a Grand Canyon permit takes forever to get. It's like a once in a lifetime experience. And it turned out that I got a follow up winter permit. So we ended up in this spot 3 years ago where he proposed. It was cool too because like we love whitewater and that's like how we like connect and like kind of like built our lives around it. And like him proposing on the river just like made a lot to me.
My name is Jason Rivera. I'm 44 from Ohio. Not a lot of whitewater in Ohio, but had a buddy years ago that I used to mountain bike with, and he bought a boat. He had a friend that had a boat, so I bought a boat and just kind of started play boating, and it was a lot of fun. I think when you're kind of an outdoors person and you're mountain biking and rock climbing and whatnot, it's sort of just a natural progression into different types of disciplines in the outdoors. So it's
Totally.
just didn't really like catch on right from the get-go. You know, I paddled or maybe 3 or 4 years, just a couple times a year, and learned how to roll and whatnot, and hung out with some friends and kind of got immersed in the culture.
Nice. Is the culture, you feel like, something that drew you in to the whitewater scene, or what
I
kind of
didn't
like
know. I
started?
think it's like a hidden gem that you don't really know how wonderful the community is until you become part of that community.
Totally.
And I didn't really know a lot of people at that time,
Yeah.
but the people that I did paddle with, they were very generous with their time to teach me, to guide me, mentor me. And as Carson said, it's kind of like an apprenticeship program where you meet
Totally.
people, and almost everyone wants to take you under their wing and teach you. And you know, 99% of it's good, some of it's bad information, but they're trying, and they just, you know, they really want you to succeed. And I mean, the community's great. Like, people will save your life if you don't even know their name.
Yeah.
You know. And,
Yeah.
you know, I think it's a very it's a very outdoors responsible community.
Mm.
People really, I mean, look at this place. This place
Yeah.
is magnificent, and it's because people spent the time to engage with their local communities and the government to keep this place, pretty sacred and beautiful and pristine.
Totally vulnerable. Oh my God, what an angel on earth just for you. Just could rescue you from the depths of hell. And you wouldn't know what it's like to be her angel.
My name is Wally Kaspersicki, currently living in Seattle, and I have zero whitewater experience before coming to the Grand Canyon. But Sam behind me showed me the ropes, and it's going pretty well since then.
Very smooth, right?
Whitewater aside, got a lot of time in and around water. Long time swimmer. Have over 100 hours of scuba diving, multiple days underneath the water, and actually was able to look into, through a kinesiology program at Indiana University, a little bit more of what happens to your body once it actually goes underwater, and then also how much good it does just being around it. Yeah, so there's a lot of cool studies coming out about how just that kind of like more basic picture of it, that more accessible idea of lap swimming is good for cardiorespiratory, it works all these muscle groups. But as people are able to deep dive into it a little bit more, they're finding that it's not just good for your body, it's good for your brain. And then as more research is being put into it, we're finding that it's not just swimming, it's not just this exercise act, it's literally being anywhere proximal to the water, and even more so when you're able to interact with it in different ways.
Heck yeah. I remember you mentioning the neuroplasticity around water. Can you kind of just like touch on that briefly?
Yeah, so neuroplasticity is a fun term, really focusing on our brain's ability to change. So plastics, moldable, changeable. What is being found from the mental, emotional, less physical side of benefits to water is, especially upon submersion, especially once your body is no longer dealing with those aspects of earth, gravity, that it normally has to work against or lift and move or just stay up, you can actually start to find a better opportunity to mold your mind in a sense. Swimming, interacting with water, creates greater opportunities for neuroplasticity, or change, or just general cognition.
So what initially brought me to Whitewater was just like a sense of wonder after seeing and even experiencing the boat to the rapids and what that all felt like. It was just a sense of like there was like more that I wanted out of even just experiencing that the first time, and so a sense of wonder. And then I think what really hooked me on it originally with Whitewater is the balance between progression and play. And so like for the like progression to me like means a lot of like being humbled and having to work, and then that is also complemented really well with that really like raw, like pure fun and joy that is just comes and is natural. And those are like two lessons like in life that I think have like that I've learned from Whitewater, and that's why I continue to go back and forth and interacting with this pursuit.
Yeah.
And then like the reflection is all those like in between moments where I'm floating on the water, or maybe I'm in camp on shore somewhere, or maybe just having a bigger picture pause from life. That this is just a big kind of finalizing or like pause moment for like my year, and maybe even bigger picture in my life, and just hoping to like really take some time for some introspection, reflection, maybe some goal orientation, and just having some space to do that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Reflection. Yeah, so what brought me to the canyon is this is just such a legendary place as far as the river and the rapids itself, and this like remote aspect of a 200 plus mile river trip with some really gnarly whitewater. But also it's legendary in the sense of the geology and the geography, as well as the history and the culture behind Grand Canyon. Is just so, it's one of the seven wonders of the world, and it's one of the most amazing historically river trips. So there's like a lot of built up sort of, like, this is, if not a milestone, it's a capstone to any paddler's experience, and that sort of legendary draw is what brought me to it.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite moments on the trip was the day that we ran lava. We weren't planning on running it. We were just supposed to run 6 miles of mostly flat water leading up to it. So I chose to hang out in the raft. I didn't even have my contacts in. We got to our intended camp at 11:30 in the morning and just decided to keep going, headed straight for lava. As we were scouting, I saw a different line than the typical right line, a massive boulder creating a large hole with a narrow line that would launch me off a boulder and hopefully over the hole. Something about the line seemed to call to me, and I decided to go for it. What followed was chaos. As I look at the footage, everything lined up exactly the way I pictured it in my mind, but I just didn't clear the hole. I got stood up and flipped over backwards into the hole, where the water was most intense. My paddle got ripped out of my left hand, but I held on tight with my right, knowing that if I let go, I probably wouldn't make it out of the hole in my boat. All of a sudden, I felt my boat start to stabilize and I rolled up. Like some sort of Matrix move, I instinctually grabbed my paddle with my second hand and surfed out of the hole. This year felt a lot like that moment, hanging on for dear life, especially the past few months. But what I'm learning is that you just have to roll up, adjust when your plane is blown, and never give up.
I was really hoping to find some points of reflection, as well as some points of, I guess manifestation was my original word, but more just like having a big experience, just having something that meant like a meaning, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
meaningful
Yeah.
experience, whatever that might be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've seen both of those happen in multiple accounts. So for reflection, I've had a lot of good conversations and good lessons through like pausing and reflecting and considering my path and my journey. And I've had the space and the time and the environment and the mental and spiritual space to really unpackage some of those things. And so like one thing that I've really learned out here through, I think, reflection has been presence and being present with with myself and my people and the people around me. And just like learning that those moments are not given, and that takes intention and work, and that's something that I've learned, not just that it's come easily, but that's something that you have to kind of earn. So that's been a big reflective piece for me. And then I guess big experience wise, or something amazing, I think is just, I think that the best in humanity is brought out on these trips for me. Like, I come for the Whitewater and the big expedition and the canyon, it's one of the seven wonders of the world, but I think I'm leaving with
once again, as I've had experiences similar, but nothing ever like this before. I'm left with just how amazed I am by the group dynamics, the compassion, the kindness, working towards a common goal, the laughter, the joy, again, the presence in everyone, and that's something that is absolutely distinct to a trip like this and to this trip, which is so incredibly special to me. So it's not about the destination. Like, the destination this whole time has been Diamond Creek, but we haven't even made it to Diamond Creek yet. I have a lot of, I think, predisposed or preconceived destinations in my life, as far as doing something at work, or getting somewhere with travel, or getting somewhere with my house. And until I have these notions in my mind, and I want to free myself from some of those notions. Not to say I don't want to be goal oriented, but the joy is in the journey. I want to. I don't necessarily have an action step, but I want to continually find value, and I want to show up to the moments when I'm looking at my email at work, or when I'm doing the laundry at my house, or when I'm doing something that isn't that, it's really easy to. I think it's easy to live the way that you want to live on something so glorious and glamorous like a Grand Canyon expedition, but I've appreciated the exposure to how I want to be out here and conditioning myself, and I don't want to settle for anything less than that back at home, because there's choice, and there's mindset, and there's just every single moment is a gift, and I want to capture that for whatever that might be. While my intentions for going back home might seem like there's access to, while everybody might have access to something like that, control of mindset and thought and everything, and I really do think it is such a privilege to be able to flow through this amazing place and with these amazing people, and have all this time, and that really is such a privilege, and I just can't communicate the value to this, and I just wish that everyone was able to have an experience like this if they were to choose.
As we ended our journey at Diamond Creek and enjoyed one last night together over dinner in Flagstaff, we found ourselves reflecting over 20 days of travel on the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. But even with all 217 miles of whitewater that we paddled on the trip, our conversations barely touched on the rapids. We shared our last moments together, speaking of the relationships we built, the meaningful interactions we shared, the things that we learned, and the ways that we changed. That night, I took a few final notes to close out my Grand Canyon journal. I wrote, "As I make the final preparations for my journey home, I am left with these overpowering yet simple lessons. Be here now, laugh often, always do your best, and go with the flow. Roll with the punches when the waves of life knock you down, and hang in there when you feel like you're barely holding on. There are no strangers, only family you haven't met yet, and take every opportunity to share simple and special moments with the people in your life. And finally, stop to smell the flowers along the journey, because the destination isn't the point or the meaning. The point of our voyage wasn't arriving at Diamond Creek. The point to our journey was found in every moment on the trip, every second that we shared together, every smile and every tear. The point of our journey was allowing our experience to change us, to sculpt us, just as the river did the canyon walls we spent 20 days between. And there is no doubt in my mind I didn't miss the point. I walk away fundamentally changed, shaped by an experience that will live forever within me. Permanent changes from an impermanent adventure."